Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Jay Cohn. Just days after a longtime Miles City athletic trainer is arrested on child pornography charges, another dozen victims have come forward in a massive sex abuse case against the trainer.
Now, an amended complaint states the 12 men say they were also sexually abused by 74-year-old James Jensen while they attended Custer County High School, where Jensen worked as the school's trainer.
Tonight, we're learning of new evidence that the victim's lawyer, John Heenan, calls a smoking gun in this lawsuit against the district.
Back in September, a civil lawsuit was filed in Custer County District Court alleging Jensen sexually abused male students at the Miles City High School beginning as far back as the 1970s, lasting until Jensen left the school district in 1998. Now, the suit alleges the school district knew of Jensen's abuse and refused to act. In response, the Miles City Unified School District launched a lawsuit of its own against Jensen.
But new evidence obtained in discovery reveals a letter given to Jensen by the school district back in 1997. The letter came after a complaint by 3 male athletes. It said that Jensen violated policy concerning student interactions, and it outlines 6 objectives for Jensen to comply with.
One says Jensen must refrain in working with students one-on-one. He was also told not to give body rub-downs unless a third person was present to maintain a line of sight. Also in the letter, Jensen is told to cease his mentoring program and that student athletes should no longer be invited to Jensen's home without another adult present. Now, the civil suit now totals 31 plaintiffs. However, Heenan says there are dozens more, some who have still not decided whether to join the lawsuit. Now, Heenan also says time is running out. The judge has set a deadline of late February for more victims to come forward.
Now, we did reach out to the attorney representing the Miles City Unified School District in this case, who told us, quote, "We disagree with the facts presented and have been more than complying with discovery," end quote.
In other news, the developer of a huge West End mansion in Billings admits to embezzlement and fraud in federal court today. 38-year-old
Larry Wayne Price Jr. admitted to his crimes, including defrauding 3 companies of more than $20 million and lying to investigators about a false abduction. Prosecutors say Price used the embezzled money to develop and build this 26,000 square foot mansion located on the Billings West End. The listing price for the mansion this summer was listed at $17 million. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Price embezzled more than $20 million from 3 coal-related companies in Wyoming and Montana.
Price first ran into trouble this summer when he was arrested in Virginia and accused of faking his own abduction in an attempt to flee creditors. Price faces the forfeiture of homes in Montana and Virginia, along with trailers, jewelry, and more. Now, the money made to go toward restitution for those victims. Price was released pending his sentencing.
The Billings City Council this week got its first look at the final draft plan for the proposed One Big Sky development.
Leaders of the project presented their study to the council Monday night, giving a glimpse of what could possibly be in the works. Q2's Russ Riesinger was there and joins us now with more. Russ.
Leaders of One Big Sky say that project is key not only to Billings' economic future, but to the entire state's. They call it a vision to create one of America's great cities of tomorrow. That vision includes 4 core districts in downtown Billings, each with its own anchor. A convention center that might look something like this would be the shining star of the entertainment district. The convention center could also be used for festivals, athletic events, or concerts. It's something that Montana really doesn't have right now and could possibly attract a lot of out-of-state convention goers who would stick around and see more of Montana. Now, the idea behind the lifestyle district is to provide urban housing and a public market, something leaders say would attract more retail businesses to downtown. There would also be an education district and a health and wellness district that would play to the strength of our growing hospitals. Bob Dunn, the developer overseeing the project, told council that Montana ranks near the bottom when it comes to attracting tomorrow's workforce and that One Big Sky could go a long way toward changing that.
Imagine for a minute if you had that convention center, that stock of housing built above a public or next to a public market, and a civic core to your downtown with things like fitness, wellness, urban retail. Do you think that would have an impact on your interest in moving to Billings?
Well, there's still a lot that has to happen before this vision can become a reality, including financial backing from both the city and the state. There will be several open forums after the first of the year for the public to learn more and weigh in on this. The first one coming up on January 4th. Jay, Jeanelle?
All right, thanks, Russ.
And it's onward and outward for the Alberta Bear Theatre. This after the Billings City Council last night voted to allow a street encroachment permit for the theater to expand.
Now, this means when construction begins this spring, the theater will expand landscaping and a plaza to the south of the theater along 3rd Avenue North. The theater will close May 1st to begin the $12 million renovation and construction.
School safety, the topic of discussion in Washington, D.C. today. And Montana had a seat at the table.
Superintendent of Public Instruction Elsie Arntzen met with President Trump, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, and other education officials around the country. Now, the committee released its recommendations to advance safety in schools.
Part of those recommendations include scrapping an Obama-era policy that urged schools to not punish minority students at a higher rate than white students. No school, though, is required to adopt the ideas, however. Secretary DeVos said, quote, "What will work for schools in Montana will be different than what will work for schools in Manhattan."
The Trump administration is following through on plans to ban bump stocks in the wake of the Las Vegas massacre. Natalie Brand has the latest from Capitol Hill.
As the Trump administration moved Tuesday to ban bump stocks more than a year after the Las Vegas massacre, the President's School Safety Commission also released a report that spoke little of guns.
Ultimately, the recommendations do not and cannot supplant the incomparable role that families play in the lives of children and in our culture.
President Trump formed the School Safety Commission after the Parkland, Florida school shooting in which 17 students and staff members were gunned down. Its dozens of recommendations range from identifying mental health problems in students to regulation of violent video games.
The report leaves the issue of arming teachers up to individual states and local school districts.
According to the Department of Homeland Security, the average duration of an active shooter incident at a school is under 5 minutes. So all of this horrible carnage takes place in a very short period of time.
In addition, the report and Mr. Trump urged media to withhold the names and identities of mass shooters.
They make these people famous, and they're not famous.
The Stand with Parkland organization of victims' families issued a statement praising the efforts of the report overall while criticizing it for not saying more about firearms regulation. Separately, the new ban on selling and possessing bump stocks, which allows semi-automatic weapons to fire like automatic firearms, taps into a federal law that prohibits machine guns. It takes effect in late March. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Now, gun rights advocates spoke out against the ban. The Gun Owners of America said it plans to sue the government to protect gun owners from what it called unconstitutional regulations.
President Trump's former national security advisor went to court for a sentencing today, but the hearing took an unexpected turn. Michael Flynn left the U.S. District Court in Washington waiting for a decision on his future. The federal judge delayed sentencing Flynn, who has pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russia. In light of Flynn's cooperation, prosecutors had recommended no prison time, but the judge hinted that he feels otherwise and says he still has many questions for both sides. With time running out to avoid a partial government shutdown, the White House now says the president is willing to work with Congress on a compromise. After a week-long stalemate, there may be new signs of progress ahead of Friday's deadline. The White House has started to explore other sources to fund the president's border wall. Democratic lawmakers have said they are not willing to go above $1.6 billion for increased border security. The partial shutdown, which would begin just days before Christmas and would be the third since President Trump took office, if in fact it happens.
Turning to weather, Bob, if people were traveling west anytime soon, they are in for a stark contrast between the east and the west.
It is amazing. We're basically a state of two seasons. Let me show you what winter looks like out in western Montana. This is Lookout Pass. Oh yeah, they had a mess out there today. Look at all the snow. All this backup was caused by a truck that had jackknifed in the snow and ice out there. That's what happened this morning. Now, this is the way it looked this afternoon in Lockwood at the Lockwood Exchange. As you see, not too bad. It looks more like springtime than winter. But as you'll see, the Doppler radar shows you rain in eastern Montana, more snow out in the western part of the state. Out in the west, we have a number of winter weather advisories ranging for snowfall amounts anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow at the pass level, all the way up to 18 inches of snow up in the higher elevations. Now tonight, across most of the central part of Montana and into tomorrow, we have a high wind warning. Now in Billings, it's a high wind warning, and also looks like it's going to be maybe up to 70 mile per hour winds possible across most of the central area of the state right on through tomorrow. We'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, Penny Marshall, known to many as Laverne DeFazio, has passed away. We'll look back on her star-studded career.
And later in sports, a busy night on the basketball court, including MSUB's men looking for their 5th straight win. Highlights on the way.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.